Can we get a round of applause for Glen, please? Yes. Thank you. Glen, thank you so much for taking your time to come and sit with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are very welcome. I've already said to you off camera, we don't have enough time to talk about the many accolades that you've acquired during your time on this earth. So we're going to touch on the most important ones that lead into mental health, which I can only assume you've had a front seat at dealing with in many of your professions in your life, and then also as the mayor of Ipswich. Now, before you get into it, tell us, how does a second-generation immigrant become the mayor of Ipswich?
Well, I was an Ipswich Borough councillor. You have to be a councillor first.
Okay.
And one of my colleagues thought that I'd be able to offer something different to the role of mayor. People have this image of a mayor being a Victorian champion of industry. While I may look like a Victorian man with a beard, I'm proud of my background. I am a second-generation immigrant. I grew up in a council estate. I have dyslexia.
Okay.
There's various different things that I have which some parts of society look down on.
Yeah.
And I want to show that anyone from any background could get involved in public life and public service.
Fantastic.
So I was put forward by a friend, by a colleague.
If I may interrupt, when you say you were put forward for a friend, was that for the councillor role?
So as a mayor, a fellow councillor suggested I go for it, so I was put forward, and then you're elected amongst the 48 councillors on there. So you only serve for 1 year, so you don't become power hungry and corrupt.
Yes, I'm sure you've seen that.
but no, it was great. And also, I mean, it does tie into mental health because in my life, I'd had many experiences which had impacted my mental health. I've been very open about my history with depression.
Okay.
So when you become mayor, you get to choose 2 charities which you support for the year.
Yeah. So
I chose Suffolk Mind to raise awareness around the work that they do in mental health.
Yes.
And also the neonatal unit at Ipswich Hospital, because my son was one of twins, and sadly we lost his brother, and he nearly died during childbirth, and he was they saved his life. He was over a month early, and he spent a month in hospital there. So it was a chance to raise money and awareness about the work that they do. Yeah. And also with my son, I was a divorcee, so I didn't have a mayoress. So I had my son as my consult for the year. So he was like my mayor uni. He was like a 16-year-old kid at the time. So he was going along to these different events with me. And it brought people an interest in the mayoralty because they sort of saw us as something different.
Yeah, and that ties in with the question that I've asked previous guests as to how you saw your presence as an emotionally available and active father. Were you privy to that in your life in terms of you and your father?
No, my biological father didn't have a lot to do with me. Okay. He dipped in and out of my life as I was growing up. Yeah. I was fortunate. My mum met my stepdad when I was about 5 years old, and he legally adopted me. Right. I carry his name. Chisholm is his name.
Yep.
And he was a strong, positive role model for me.
Fantastic.
And it was also like I learned through a mission from my biological father.
Yeah.
So by him not being there, I learned what not to do. And then by my adopted dad being there, I learned what to do. I had that. Yeah. And so when me and my ex-wife got divorced, my son was 4 years old.
Right.
I was determined that I was going to play a part in his life and always be there. So we shared the responsibility between us. Yeah. We shared time together. I had him for like half the week.
Yes.
And everything that happened, even when he was a teenager and going to university, doing the tour. Yeah. Me and my ex-wife went along together on those tours just to see that. Yeah. We went to every single parents' evening together because for me, it was so important. I built this bond with my son, and he is the most precious thing in my life.
Of course.
And so I wanted to still be available there for him, and that's something which carried on. We still do. He's 27 years old. He lives in Bristol.
Okay.
We still talk every week, and I've spoken to my friends about it before. The fact that we used to go to movies all the while together, and we now sync up movies. So we'll watch a film at the same weekend, so we can have like a debate and talk about it and that kind of thing. We still have that kind of.
I'm jealous. You know what I mean? I'm jealous because that's amazing, and that's the blueprint. Personally, I know that's the blueprint for young males to build a solid foundation. without having to go through the traumatic introduction as to why they need to be present for themselves and for their children. So that's brilliant. Again, a round of applause for that, because this is why he's mayor. You know what I mean? Making the correct decisions. That's how it works. So you didn't have your biological father in your life on a consistent basis, but you had another male who understood what was needed for you as a young male, and he was able to fulfill and step into that role. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. He was a strong, positive role model. And also I had my granddad as well. My granddad was very politically active. Yeah. He was a union man, a shop steward. And I remember as a child growing up, my dad and my grandfather would sit around the table and talk about politics. Yeah. So I was very much aware from an early age of what was going on in the political world. That kind of stuck with me. And I've always had a passion about that. And also it's about a kind of ethos of helping people. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to hold positions where I've been able to help other people. And it's something that I've been passionate about, and something which has kind of driven me.
Fantastic. So one of our previous guests, Ash touched on the fact that he feels, or he believes, that because grandparents are not prevalent in the home as they used to be, there's a lot more work on mums and dads of the era today. And I happen to agree with that. And you just touching on the fact that your granddad was around, it helped you to be brought into a world where a male can see other males sitting down and discussing things logically.
And it comes into what we've heard a few times, the whole it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah. And as a family unit, we all have roles to play. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have that with my dad and my grandfather. I'm an uncle to 3 nephews, and I like to feel that I play a positive role in their life, spending time with them as they grow up. And we do, as we go along, we meet people in our life which impact us and shape our worldview and the way we look at things.
I agree 100%. So with your nephews, how often do you see yourself or feel yourself imparting knowledge that assists with their mental health? And if I may, the mental health that I'm referring to is the way they see the world compared to what the world is actually doing.
Yeah, I mean, my nephews are 17, 15, and 7, so they're different ages. Yeah. And so I've been present all through their lives, and it's very much just them knowing that I'm here. With the older two, it was when they were going through different troubles at school, different issues, it's knowing that they could talk to me about that. With my youngest nephew, he has autism and he has special needs, and it's being available and being there for him with a strange how sometimes things work out. So I was my work, I used to be a project worker supporting homeless people. Right, okay. It was very demanding, took a lot of my time, and I absolutely loved the job. But when I suffered my spinal cord injury, that meant that I had to give up work. I had to give up that job. And I've now found that I've had more time to build a bond with my youngest nephew and spend that time with him, and also to sort of be there as a family unit. We are quite a small family unit, so be able to help my sister by being there and supporting them. That's brilliant.
So all of I don't know if it was your ideal plan for everything to happen the way it has, but as you rightly said, a tragedy, so to speak, took you away from something that you were doing, but gave you something back that was more valuable.
It took me a long while to see things that way. When I first had my incident, basically my spinal cord, the disc just collapsed and crushed. I was taken to the hospital, I had an MRI, and they said I was 24 hours from being paralysed from the neck down. So I had to have an emergency surgery. We weren't sure what it was going to be when I came out. And for the first few months, I was housebound. I was advised that I will be permanently disabled. I will never be able to walk unaided. And I felt that I'd lost so much. I felt that part of me had gone. My physicality, I wasn't like an amazing athlete, but I played American football for over a decade. I done medieval sword fighting. I done salsa dancing. So physical activities were part of it. And for them to be gone, and also to have that sense of vulnerability, of depending on other people. But I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Okay.
I went through counselling and therapy for that, and it really helped me to see things from a different perspective. And as I've said, I've dealt with depression, and so that was one thing. But when I started getting these vivid flashbacks, so much so that in the night I would feel the grit in my mouth where I'd fallen over and smacked my face on the floor.
Okay.
I could feel the pain in my shoulders, and I'd wake up just clenched and tense like that. So I knew that something was different. I knew I needed to get help. So that's why I reached out, and that's where I was able to get the counselling services.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you say you knew that you had to reach out and get help, was that because of the structure around you? What led you to that?
It was from past experience. As I said, I've dealt with depression. I'd had CBT therapy before that, and it had given me the tools to deal with that. Right. So whenever I felt myself heading into a depressive episode, I knew how to manage that, how to handle that. Yeah. But with this, it was something different, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and I was really struggling with it. So I contacted my GP, who then put me through mental health, and that's when I had I was assigned a counsellor, had the counselling sessions, and it was amazing. You kind of, when people talk about the mind and the body being connected, at first I was a little bit skeptical about that. But by going through that process, by doing these meditation, these exercises where you go back to what's happening to you, and you can actually feel the weight lifted from your shoulders. You can feel it physically changing your body and how you are. So